Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Injury Law Pod. I am your host, Eric Bartlett, 27-year personal injury lawyer. And this is the podcast where we break down everything related to personal injury law. And if you're a first time listener, we try to put everything simply. We try to break it down so that if you're in the situation or you know somebody in a situation facing a personal injury claim, you're getting the information you need to know so that you can defeat, you can have a fighting chance with Dr. Evil. And who's Dr. Evil? The insurance companies. That's what I affectionately call them because insurance companies have one mission, that is to make money. And so, how do they do that? By significantly paying less than what they should or denying a claim outright. And on today's episode, we're talking about big truck accidents. And that's a very generic term, right? It immediately brings to mind a semi truck, something of that nature. But I'm talking about any commercially owned. So whether it's a semi truck, whether it's a UPS delivery vehicle, Amazon delivery vehicle, maybe it's a pickup truck that's owned by a company, whatever it is, if it is a commercial vehicle, it is not your typical car accident when a collision occurs with that vehicle. I can't emphasize that enough. So, most people and many lawyers that aren't familiar with this particular type of a claim of an accident, they think, oh, I was in an accident. It involved this truck. It's going to be the usual. We're going to set up an insurance claim. We're going to go through the process. We're going to get it done. But that is not what is involved with a commercially owned vehicle. So the more severe, the more catastrophic an accident is, the more important it is that you understand what you're facing, what you're up against. Time is not on your side. And here's where these companies have an advantage because if there's a serious collision, somebody's killed, somebody's taken away by ambulance, hospitalized, whatever that looks like. Unfortunately, that person, right, they're out of the mix and their family is there. Again, let's say hospitalized. What's the number one concern? Is this person going to be okay? Are they going to make it through? And meanwhile, if you're dealing with a commercial company, you've got this big company, you've got a big insurance company behind them. And if it's a severe catastrophic situation, they will have boots on the ground at the accident scene. They will fly people in at a moment's notice to get to that accident scene and start going to work to control the narrative. They're going to send people in there, experts, accident reconstructionists, truck accident people, trucking industry people. They're going to get them in there. They're going to have those people in there trying to grab all the evidence, doing everything they can to skew what the law enforcement knows about the situation, and immediately they're at work. Meanwhile, like I said, somebody's seriously hurt, they're out of the mix, somebody's killed, there's nobody there to make sure that things are being properly preserved. So, it's a really tough situation because again, there's a number one priority for the people that have been affected by this, and that is their medical care, or again, if someone has died, it's farthest from anybody's thoughts about what's going on with the accident and with the truck company or the commercial company. But boy, they're at work, and they're at work to do everything they can to get off the hook. It's one of these situations where you cannot simply go about the process of thinking, you know what? We don't even want to think about lawyers. We don't even want to think about legal claims. We don't want to think about any of that because all we are concerned about right now is our loved one. But here's the problem: your loved one who's been injured, they are facing maybe major medical treatment, major medical bills. Again, maybe somebody has died, and now all of a sudden there's a wife and 3 kids, and they're sitting there wondering, how are we going to make it? This was our breadwinner. This was the person that went to work every day and provided for our family. And now what? So, unfortunately, you have to act quickly in countering this large company and this large insurance company. Things that have to happen as soon as possible. A letter has to go out. Contact has to be made with the truck company, with their insurance company, maybe with others that are involved. You got to figure out who else is involved in that trucking accident. There's a trailer. Who's the trailer owned by? There was a broker that was part of the goods being transported. All of these parties may have responsibility in this. And you've got to find that out, and you've got to nail them down. And you need access to the truck. You need to have full access. You need to get an inspection of the truck. So, from my perspective as a commercial accident lawyer, as soon as we get involved, we get boots on the ground. We get our accident reconstruction people involved. We get our trucking people involved. We want to do our own inspection of that vehicle. We want to know about its maintenance history, right? We want to know, were there any defects in the truck? So they're supposed to obviously have regular inspections of those trucks. There's supposed to be inspections done before the truck ever goes out on the road. What did that look like? Did it happen? Was there faulty equipment? What was the driver? What was the situation with the driver? Need to know that. There's maintenance records. There's log books. Logs are required by drivers showing how long they had been driving, when they took rest breaks. You can only be on the road so long, and then you have to be rested. There's satellite tracking that's maintained by the companies. There's electronic control modules on these trucks, also commonly referred to as black boxes. These things have to get accessed, they have to be preserved. And shockingly, you can't just call somebody up and say, "Hey, we want to look at all this stuff." And they're going to say, "Sure, we're going to turn it all over to you." Generally speaking, a lawsuit has to be filed immediately. A court has to get involved. A judge has to get involved. Preservation motions have to be made so that the truck company, the insurance company, everybody is legally bound to preserve anything and everything that might be potentially relevant in a legal action coming out of this major accident. And so, again, people might be hesitant. Again, they don't even want to think about that because they've got so many other things going on in their head, but time is not on your side. And others on the other side, they are hard at work. They're not resting. They know their mission, and they're going to make sure that they've preserved everything that's favorable to them. Just as a simple example, we had a case where it happened at nighttime. Our driver was coming over a hill. There was a truck attempting to do essentially a U-turn in the highway. And there was a question about whether or not the truck and the trailer had reflective tape as required, so that if they were sideways in the roadway where lights aren't as visible on the truck and the trailer, the headlights from our client's vehicle would illuminate that truck and that trailer. So that reflective tape, it's called conspicuity tape. And that's something that, again, if you don't get access to that vehicle as quickly as possible, you don't know what that truck company might do. They might go slap that tape on there. If there aren't photos and or video at the scene, you just don't know what the full extent of the evidence is. So time is of essence. I cannot repeat that enough. And again, you've got to put all these parties on that they can't be messing with stuff. And if they do, that can be used against them in any lawsuit that is going on because of this accident. Another thing is hiring records, right? You want to know everything there is to know about this driver that was at the wheel of this commercial vehicle. Was this person even qualified? Did this person have a history of accidents, of dangerous driving? Had she been reprimanded in the past for any issues? And what about this truck company's history? You want to know how many incidents they've had in the past where people have been seriously hurt, they've been killed. What's their preventable accident history? Preventable accidents, ones that should have never happened. If this company had proper procedures in place, proper policies in place, if they were regularly enforcing their own procedures, were they adhering to those? This is all the stuff that is so crucial to putting a claim together against a commercial company. And you've got to figure out, again, it may not just be the truck company that's involved, it may be others. And it may be the scene of the accident too. Was there anything that played into this accident that's not part of the truck company? Was there something with the roadway design? Was there something, any obstructions to vision? Again, there are multiple angles that have to be explored. And if you're just out there hanging out on your own, things can change quickly with a scene. Once maybe a highway department is notified about the accident, they go about making corrections. And then you don't have a good picture of what the scene looked like when this accident happened. And so it's not a matter of just thinking, let's just get through this initial hospitalization, or let's get through burying our loved one. And then, we're going to start thinking about what our options are. Sadly, you just don't have that kind of time. And you can't just think, we'll get the accident report, we'll find out who the insurance company is, we'll set up a claim. I know that they're going to handle this. It was clearly their fault. They're not going to fight us on this. I'm sure that's not how it works. You just cannot go about it that way. In a serious, catastrophic injury situation involving a commercial vehicle, you have to move quickly, because you can't trust that things are going to be properly preserved as they should. And once you get into this lawsuit, where now the insurance companies or the truck companies or the brokerage companies or the trailer company, they are now required under oath to answer questions, to produce documents, to produce the equipment, whatever it is. And again, that stuff has to be acted on quickly. You just can tell the theme here of this podcast, which is action and quick action. It just has to be that way because you're dealing with companies that deal with these scenarios all the time. They have teams ready to go with a phone call. And if you're not ready, you're going to lose. You're going to have your claim significantly diminished or outright denied. And then it's a struggle. And the lawsuit is not an easy one if you don't have all that key evidence. And when we get involved, we have trucking industry experts, we have accident reconstruction experts, we have the team that is needed to analyze the evidence and put the case together so that something that looks like maybe it's going to be difficult becomes a lot clearer when it's put together correctly. And there's so much that goes into these, and there's so much about how the injury is going to affect someone now for their lifetime, going to affect their family for the lifetime. And that involves possibly life care planners, maybe vocational assessments of the injured person, maybe economic analysis of the lost income if someone was killed. There's so many components to a properly handled commercial vehicle case. So I just want you to understand that a big truck accident, a commercial vehicle accident, is not a simple car accident. And many components have to go into it. And by the way, it's not cheap to put this together properly. And if you think you can go to the lawyer that you used for a traffic ticket one time, or for your divorce, or to put your will together, you're sorely mistaken. Those lawyers are not built, their systems aren't in place. Their team isn't there to handle the complexity that is involved in this type of a legal action. And unfortunately, we get referrals from those types of lawyers and they get involved. They don't know the importance of acting quickly. They sit on it. They send out letters maybe to an insurance company. That insurance company puts the hand up right, says, sure, yeah, this is what we're going to need, blah, blah, blah. Time goes by, evidence, crucial evidence is lost. And so, again, if you've stumbled upon my podcast and you've had this situation, I hope it's a call to action to you to not wait, but to reach out and get the proper help that you need to make sure all the things that should be getting done are getting done so that you can maximize this legal claim. Because here's the deal. At this point, this is what you've got. This is your one chance to get properly compensated or taken care of for the future, whatever that looks like. And time delays will cost you at the end. So I hope you found this episode useful, informative. And again, I hope that you'll reach out if you're in this situation or if you know somebody that's in this situation. We're always happy to talk with you when we do a consultation. It's free. So there's no obligation, and we can go through even more detail about your specific situation. And until the next episode, I always ask, if you found this helpful, leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening. Feel free to give us a call. Stay safe, stay well.